Hello teachers, it's me again. We're going to talk a little bit now about the second clarifying objective. It says to predict upcoming weather events and from weather data collected through observation through measurements. We're looking at that information according to observations as well as some of our maps that we have. Our unpacked document says that students can collect and compare weather data in order to predict the likelihood of particular weather conditions occurring. Students can read basic weather instruments of a thermometer, barometer, anemometer, wind vane, and rain gauge. Reading those things, what does that mean for what has happened, or what do we expect to happen with our rain, with our precipitation, with our weather factors? Students can also identify atmospheric conditions in presence of clouds, stratus, cirrus, and cumulus. It mentions three. Cumulonimbus is not there. They're going to get deeper into those in the 7th grade as they get into weather in the hydrologic cycle. More depth there. We don't need to worry about in 5th grade each of those prefixes and suffixes as they talk about clouds. We also talk about fronts. It does not clarify what fronts. In 5th grade, we're going to focus mainly on the warm front and cold front. When we see occluded fronts and stationary fronts on our maps, we'll talk about them, but let's focus mainly on those big two. And also, it will help us when 7th grade gets it. They're going to get more in depth with what they're talking about. And that the fronts are associated with predictable weather and patterns. Students can make basic weather predictions with these skills. Our verb for this standard is to predict. Students need to gather data, look at data, and say, this is what I think is going to happen. We want many meteorologists with this, okay? So we're going to be talking about those things. As we talk about those, we're going to utilize a map. I've found the Weather Underground map that is pretty good. I like the way it looks. It gives us a lot of the features and symbols that we need for our standards. So with the one that we have right now, one piece that we need to think about, I took a screenshot from earlier in the week and had this cold front that's here, right about in the same spot as to where our low pressure is and the cold front coming that we have right now. But this was on Monday, so this was 4 days ago, and this is about where it was. This right here is the weather storm that we had on Tuesday morning. About 2 o'clock in the morning, the rumbles and the rain and the pour down. That was this system that came and pushed through because of this low pressure and this cold front. Notice that we had the teeth of the cold front. They're pointing and coming in this direction, or causing us to have the weather to come. But with that weather, that low pressure, it spins in that counterclockwise fashion. It's going to bring that up towards us, and that's what brought it to North Carolina. It's this system that's way over here in California that has us looking at the low pressure and the cold front that came off of there. That one there is the one that we have that is here now. It was over here, and it has traveled from California, going from the west to the east, as our weather often does, talking about how the jet stream pushes our weather from the west to the east. And we get to this point. We now have a cold front, and it's looking to come in the same way this is. It's off here into Arkansas and Louisiana, and it's going to push into Tennessee, and it's going to come towards us sometime on Friday. We're going to get this weather coming. I see this. What does a cold front mean to me? I know that as a cold air mass is coming, colder weather will follow it. I know that I've got warm that's leaving and cold coming in. It's going to bring me some precipitation with that one. With all this moisture it picks up from down here in the Gulf, it's going to push that up to us. And we're going to get a decent storm in there, I think. So this prediction, with us having the cold fronts and what that means for us, we can utilize that to predict what we see is going to happen. Okay? With this, if I'm using the maps that we have, every school has a few of these maps. We didn't have enough for everybody yet. We're working on them. But these maps are there for us to look at. So what does it tell us? Our kids struggle to know directions. We need to know that this is the west coast. This is the east coast. North is where Canada is. South is where Mexico is, and the Gulf of Mexico. Giving them a little bit of geography. Teachers are asking, when do kids learn at geography? That's on us. We need to make sure that they're getting the basics of that one. Cardinal directions are in there. How we can do those things and get kids to read a map and understanding some things. But it just comes down to the using it, us speaking it, them learning it. So what we're going to do is we're going to place on here our fronts. So I have a cold front that is coming through Arkansas. Put it right about here. And this is what I would have my kids doing. So you put those on there. As you're looking at putting these things on here, I have a low pressure cling that I'm going to put that is out in the Nebraska, Kansas area. Put my low pressure on there. I'm also going to stick a high pressure up where New Jersey is, up in here, because that's important for what I have going on. So I've got those on, but I also want this warm front, because this warm front is what we've got coming through right now. What we're dropping the clear weather we have is because this high pressure left us. And that's where we had yesterday, and it's pushed further north, and they're clearing it off as it's going out to sea. So we're going to put that warm front. Put the warm front, we're heading here, and we're facing north. So that warm front is heading north. With those bumps that are on there, meaning we're moving to the northeast with that warm front. So with these numbers, with these symbols, I'm able to have my students figure out some things of how weather is going so that I can predict. Okay? My objectives talks about using the fronts as what those are. It also talks about some of our clouds that are in there. Our coach book does a nice job of discussing what different those clouds can bring. And so looking at that piece, that is very close to what our standard is talking about. But we're just making basic predictions with what we have. Okay? As we're talking about this, our pressure is rapidly falling. That's what it says right now. So as I'm dropping, I've got more opportunities for moisture to be happening in our atmosphere. As my pressure goes down, there's less pressure, allowing moisture to come in. The lower that goes, the more moisture that can come together. We know moisture comes together, makes clouds. The darker the cloud, the more moisture it is, will bring more precipitation. As we drop in pressure, our clouds will increase. Doesn't mean we'll always get rain, but this one will mean that we'll increase our cloud cover. Wind directions. If we have wind directions coming from the north, it's blowing down our cold air. If it's coming from the south, it's blowing up warm tropical air, east to west. If we get a lot of our wind directions are coming from the southwest, we usually get some moisture with that because it's blowing the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, blowing it up towards us in North Carolina. So keeping in mind these factors that we have as we're going through and looking at the different pieces that we have. This map, if you haven't played with it, feel free, has lots of different pieces on here. We talk about the cloud bases. It talks about showing clouds, what types of clouds we have, what things are there. It changes with a lot of information that we have. Our pressures. Here's that low pressure that we have out there. Here's our high pressure that we have out here. This is what we have. It's showing us a great visual of what those are. It's kind of fun to look at. We can tap on certain places, and it'll tell us the pressures that are there. If I want to look at temperatures, I'm at 65, and we're ducking it down somewhere around Wilmington area at 65 degrees right now. And lots of different factors that you can look at with this one. So using this map, the Weather Underground map, as well as your weather data from your weather station, this will help us to be able to predict, students be able to predict so that they can answer questions and figure out what's coming up next and what things are factoring into our weather that we have in our location at this time. Thank you.